We are ready for Valentine's Day. You can see I am all decked out in my Valentine's apron. So I'm going to show you a really fun and fairly easy shorter design today. So I've already got the nail prepped and ready to go. We've pushed back the cuticles, removed the shine, cleansed with our swipe, and applied 2 coats of our protein bond. I'm going to go in with my forms, and when you're putting forms on for a shorter nail, it's going to be a little bit of a different application. You're still going to do pretty much the same thing, but just kind of adjusting how you're putting that form on. So we're still going to put that little tab on the back. I'm still going to pinch the end of my form. Now we're actually going to be doing kind of an oval to an almond shaped nail, but again on a shorter nail. So I am going to pinch my form just a little bit shorter. And we'll start there, I think. And then I'm also going to open up that top perforation. I'm just going to kind of press this form just so it's a little bit kind of flatter, kind of opens it up a little bit more. Now, when you're working on a shorter nail, you still have to make sure that your form is coming straight out and that your lower arches are going to come straight out. So you actually may want to start at just a slight downward angle when you're getting that form on. So just that slight angle downward. And then I'm going to pinch that a little bit shorter, and you're going to notice that that little bit of light reflection, you can kind of see how it's giving you kind of your line for your lower arch. When we pinch that shorter, it actually is going to start raising up that light reflection, so you can see that my form is going to come a little bit more flush up underneath that nail, and I'm going to have that light reflection there as my guide. But if I were to keep pinching this, you're going to start to see that that lower arch line, that light reflection, is actually going to start to raise up. So that's why you do want to start with that form at a slight downward angle, so that that light reflection is still going to look like it's coming straight out. So that lower arch, that line, that reflection, that light reflection, is going to come straight out from where that natural nail comes out. Okay, so we've got our form on there, and you can see that I've really pinched that form pretty short. So we're going to be doing, like I said, a shorter, more active length nail. So we're going to bring our product just down to where we've pinched that end of the form. We're going to be doing something, one of my favorite products to use. We're going to be working with our red liquid art. Now, liquid art is a colored monomer. We're going to be mixing this into just some clear monomer. I've got a little mini dappen dish here. I usually like to work with my liquid art in the smaller dappen dishes rather than trying to use a full big one because I don't use a whole lot of it. So we're just going to pour a little bit of our monomer into our dappen dish. And I'm using, this is Greg's Signature Series brush, size 12. This is the brush that I'm going to be using for my clear monomer, okay? I'm going to use some clear monomer in my larger dappen dish to build the structure of the nail. So I'm actually going to leave this brush in that dappen dish so I don't mix up my brushes, because I'm going to use a separate brush for using with my liquid art, okay? And you'll see why in just a couple of minutes here. But just so you guys know, it's good to have 2 separate brushes for when you're using liquid art, because the brush will actually kind of hold on to some of that liquid and it can stain. So you want to make sure that you're not going to be using the brush that you use with your liquid art for, say, your pink and whites or other designs like that. So have a separate brush for your liquid art and for your just regular acrylics. So we're going to take just a few drops here. And let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe we'll do 5. I'm going to put the rest of that back in there. Again, you guys, I'm going to close up the bottle. Personally, anytime I use this, I never actually leave that dropper in there, just to be safe. And it also helps to keep me from knocking my bottle over. You guys, the liquid art is very highly pigmented, so if you do get this on your skin or if you spill it, it can stain. So work very carefully with it and always keep that cap on the bottom. So let's grab our brush, and I'm going to be working with our Speed Clear today. All right, so let's just kind of test. I'm just going to mix that liquid up a little bit, make sure that liquid art is mixed up into your monomer. I'm just going to pick up a test pearl here just to kind of see, make sure that color is as dark as I want it. And I think maybe I want to go just a little bit darker. So I'm going to grab my dropper one more time. Do 1, 2, Oh, let's go 3 more. All right, so let's again mix that up, and we'll pick up another pearl again with that speed clear. All right, so that's a little bit darker. You can see that first bead was maybe just a little bit lighter, a little bit more almost pink looking. Now we've got a little bit more of a darker pearl to work with. We've got our liquid art brush, we've got our clean monomer, and we've got our speed clear. So I'm also going to be using our gold foil from the Jewel Foil collection. So I'm just going to take a little bit of that foil out, and I'm just going to kind of break that up. You don't have to break it up. You can use those bigger, chunkier pieces, but I kind of like the smaller pieces for this design. And I'm just going to leave that right there on my towel. So I've got all of my products ready to go now. Let's get into building our nail. I'm going to start by picking up just a very small pearl of our speed clear with the red liquid art monomer. Now with this design, because we are doing such a short nail, we really have to make sure that we're keeping our layers thin, okay? Now, one thing I almost forgot, before we actually apply any of that liquid art, I am going to apply a little bit of our speed clear, just the clear, not with the liquid art, onto that natural nail. So I'm going to pick up just a tiny little pearl, leave it on the wetter side, and I'm going to go about halfway up the nail. I'm going to press that pearl on and then just kind of blend that out, just very gently, very lightly blending that out. The reason that I apply that really, really thin layer of the clear is because, like I was saying earlier, the liquid art has a lot of pigment to it and it can stain that natural nail. So putting that little bit of clear on the nail first is going to keep that product from staining the nail. Now we can get into our free edge here. So again, we'll go back to our liquid art. With my liquid art brush, we're going to pick up just a small pearl of that clear, drain out the extra liquid. This is going to bring our product a little bit more to a clay form, so it's not going to run. We're going to press that out from side to side, and then I'm just going to kind of tuck that up into those corners here, going from the corner of the nail to the point of that form where we pinched it in. Just using the edge of my brush, tucking that in, creating that shorter almond shaped nail. Again, using the edge of my brush, tucking that in, pressing that so it's nice and even from side to side. And then I'm just going to kind of blend that out just a little bit, taper that down to the end, perfecting my shape as best as I can. Now, as our product is still wet, I'm going to come in and I'm going to pick up those pieces of my foil and set those down into that wet acrylic. I'm just kind of picking up random little pieces here and there, setting that down in, and this is kind of why I like to break up those pieces a little bit before I actually set them on the nail, because it's going to give me a little bit of space in between those pieces, so I'm still going to be able to see that red liquid art through there. Okay, I'm going to take just a little bit more of that red, and I'm going to set that right, maybe even just a smaller pearl than that, so just a tiny little bit. There we go. I'm going to set that right in the middle here, just kind of blend that out just a little, and I'm not really blending it all the way to the edges. I'm kind of creating just like a little, kind of a little U shape, or upside down U shape, I guess. Just kind of a rounded edge here, kind of blending that edge out, just kind of tapping around the edge. Now I can also add a little bit more foil up into there if I want to, but we're going to be ombreing this nail, so I don't want to bring my product all the way farther back, and I definitely don't want to get that red liquid art past where we had that clear. So again, just kind of picking up those last little bits of our foil, setting them down into our wet acrylic. Okay, I think I'm liking how that's looking. Now you guys, again, we are doing layers, so as you're working, you really have to make sure that these layers stay nice and thin. So if we take a look from the side, you can still see that that nail is still very, very thin. I don't have any structure to it. We're gonna add another layer of the red liquid art now. So this is gonna give us a little bit of that depth, and it's gonna look like it's kind of covering up our foil, but all we're doing is just giving it more color. So again, just a wet pearl over the top of that, just enough to kind of encapsulate that foil and give it that red tint. Just a tiny little bit more. Again, you guys, we want to make sure that we're applying this very, very thin because we're going to ombre over the top and we need to do more layers with that. So still, if we take a look from the side, it's still very, very thin. It's not, we don't have a lot of structure. We're not trying to build anything up, okay? I'm going to set my liquid art brush off to the side. I'm going to actually set my liquid art off to the side, and I'm going to grab a couple of clean towels here. Now, for our ombre, I'm going to work with our Cover Pink. The Cover Peach also works really well. It looks really pretty with this color, but I am going to kind of just let this first layer set just a little bit so that I don't have my product bleed together, but just enough to where we're going to be able to blend. So right now it looks almost like a matte finish on there, and that's kind of my indicator to go on to my next pearl. So we're going to pick up our Cover Pink and a fairly small pearl. We're going to let that kind of set for just a second or two, maybe up to about 4 seconds. We'll set that right at our cuticle area. I'm going to press that down, press out the cuticle area, and I'm kind of starting to angle that finger downward so that my product starts to flow. Now, I don't want my product to flow too far down because I want it to stop right basically on where the edge of my red was. And then I'm just going to blend out just the edge. So I'm not going to pull a lot of that product from the cuticle area. I'm just blending right from that edge. This is going to give us that really pretty ombre. Just going to tuck in my sides a little bit. And the reason, remember when I said I made kind of that little kind of rounded shape with my red? The reason for that is I want to make sure that my pink is covering all the way down those sides, and I'm not going to end up filing through that when I do my filing. Okay, we've got our blend. Now, at this point, we still need to cap this free edge. Now, I know we used that Speed Clear and the liquid art to cover the foil, but now we need to cap that blended area so when we file, we don't file our ombre out, okay? So we're gonna go back to our Speed Clear, pick up just a small pearl of that. This one I'm gonna give just a little bit of a dab, and then we'll set that down. Now, I turn my brush around and I blend that back up into my arch, blend back into the arch, and then I'll blend this forward. Now, I don't have to really be super concerned about capping that red free edge, but just enough to cap where the pink and the red come together. So just capping that ombre blend. All right. So now at this point, now we can see there is that proper structure in there, but because I kept my layers in between very, very thin, I didn't bring up and build up too much bulk, okay? We're gonna let this nail dry. I'm gonna go through and file this, and then we'll show you one more detail that we're gonna add to this nail. Okay, so we've got our nail filed out. I'm gonna add one more coat of our protein bond, and then we're gonna do a little bit of fun over the top of this nail. So our protein bond is really gonna help to ensure that our top coat is gonna adhere well, but it's also gonna help to adhere the fun little nail decals that we're gonna be using today. If you guys haven't seen these yet, we've had them for a little while, but Valentine's Day, we're gonna use our Young Nails hearts. I think I like the heart. So I'm gonna set that heart on there, just right in line. I'm gonna kind of touch that with my finger, let go with the tweezers, and then I can use the tweezer to kind of press that down onto the nail. But a really easy trick is if you have our clear stamper, you can use that clear stamper as well. You can use that and you can kind of just look straight through it and use that to really squish that down and secure that onto the nail. That way you don't have to touch the nail to secure it down because that nail does have that protein bond on it. So you don't want to be touching that with your finger. Okay, so again, you can either use the tweezer, and I'm using kind of the back edge of the tweezer to kind of secure that down, or using that, our stamper to really secure that down. Couple of different ways to help you get your stamps or to get your decals on that nail nice and flat. But you do want to make sure that you are getting those pressed down onto the nail so that they don't leave any ridges or any seams. And I'm kind of starting from the center and pressing that decal outward. So if there are any maybe little air pockets underneath there, it's going to press those out really well, okay? Now, once you've got all of those little air pockets pressed out and there's no more seams left on there, we can go to our top coat. Now, personal preference, you can use really any of our top coats. For this, I actually really like to use the Ultimate Finish top coat because it is a little bit of a thicker top coat. So when I'm using decals and things like that, that little bit of a thicker top coat is really going to seal really well around that decal so that you don't feel any of those seams or ridges or anything like that. And it's just going to blend everything nice and easy. So just one coat of our top coat is really all that would be necessary. If you do feel like maybe there's a little bit of a ridge or anything like that, you can go through and buff if necessary and then apply a second coat of top coat, or sometimes you can even just reapply a second coat of top coat without the buff. But let's get that into our light. We'll cure that and then I'll show you the final look. Okay, so our nail is fully cured out. And again, because we were using the Ultimate Finish, we don't have to worry about wiping off any tacky surface. This is a tack-free top coat, so once that nail is cured out, it's ready to go. And now we have a nice smooth finish, sealed in all the edges of our decal. And we've got our beautiful ombre with our liquid art extension. So you guys, happy Valentine's Day to you if you're celebrating. If you're not celebrating, still have some fun on your nails. So have a good Valentine's.